Gothic is an extinct Germanic language that was spoken by the Goths. It is known primarily from the Codex Argenteus, a 6th century copy of a 4th century Bible translation, and is the only East Germanic language with a sizable text corpus. All others, including Burgundian and Vandalic, are known, if at all, only from proper names that survived in historical accounts, and from loanwords in other languages such as Portuguese, Spanish and French. Like other Germanic languages, Gothic is a part of the Indo-European language family. It is the earliest Germanic language that is attested in any sizable texts, but it lacks any modern descendants. The oldest documents in Gothic date back to the 4th century. The language was in decline by the mid-6th century, partly because the military defeated the Goths at the hands of the Franks, the elimination of the Goths in Italy and geographic isolation. The language survived as a domestic language in the Iberian Peninsula as late as the 8th century and, in the lower Danube area and in isolated mountain regions in Crimea, apparently as late as the early 9th century. Gothic-seeming terms found in later manuscripts may or may not belong to the same language. The existence of such early attested texts makes it a language of considerable interest in comparative linguistics, history and evidence. Only a few documents in Gothic survive, not enough for completely reconstructing the language. That is especially true considering that most Gothic corpora are translations or glosses of other languages. So foreign linguistic elements most certainly influence the texts. These are the primary sources. The largest body of surviving documentation consists of codices written and commissioned by the Arian bishop Ulfilas, the leader of a community of Visigothic Christians in the Roman province of Moesia. He commissioned a translation of the Greek Bible into the Gothic language, of which roughly 3/4 of the New Testament and some fragments of the Old Testament have survived. The Ulfilas translations are collected in the following codices. Codex Argenteus, including the Spire fragment, 188 leaves. The best preserved Gothic manuscript. Dating from the 6th century, it was preserved and transmitted by northern Ostrogoths in modern Italy. It contains a large part of the 4 Gospels. Since it is a translation from Greek, the language of the Codex Argenteus is replete with borrowed Greek words and Greek usages. The syntax in particular is often copied directly from the Greek. Codex Ambrosianus and the Codex Taurinensis. 5 parts, totaling 193 leaves. It contains scattered passages from the New Testament, of the Old Testament, and some commentaries known as skerenes. It is, therefore, likely that the text had been somewhat modified by copyists. Codex Giacensus. 1 leaf, fragments of Luke chapters 23 to 24. It was found in Egypt in 1907 and was destroyed by water damage in 1945. Codex Carolinus. 4 leaves, fragments of Romans chapters 11 to 15. Codex Vaticanus Latinus 5750. 3 leaves, pages 57/58, 59/60 and 61/62 of the skerenes. A scattering of old documents, alphabets, calendars, glosses found in a number of manuscripts and a few runic inscriptions that are known or suspected to be Gothic. Some scholars believe that these inscriptions are not at all Gothic. Several names in an Indian inscription were thought to be possibly Gothic by Kraus. A small dictionary of more than 80 words and a song without translation, compiled by the Fleming Ogier Giselin de Busbecq, the Habsburg ambassador to the court of the Ottoman Empire in Istanbul from 1555 to 1562, who was curious to find out about the language and by arrangement met 2 speakers of Crimean Gothic and listed the terms in his compilation Turkish Letters. These terms date from nearly a millennium later than Ulfilas and are therefore not representative of his language. Busbecq's material also contains many puzzles and enigmas and is difficult to interpret in the light of comparative Germanic linguistics. There have been unsubstantiated reports of the discovery of other parts of Ulfilas, a Bible. Heinrich May in 1968 claimed to have found in England 12 leaves of a palimpsest containing parts of the Gospel of Matthew. The claim was never substantiated. Only fragments of the Gothic translation of the Bible have been preserved. The translation was apparently done in the Balkans region by people in close contact with Greek Christian culture. It appears that the Gothic Bible was used by the Visigoths in Iberia until about 700 AD, and perhaps for a time in Italy, the Balkans and what is now Ukraine. In exterminating Arianism, many texts in Gothic were probably expunged and overwritten as palimpsests or collected and burned. Apart from biblical texts, the only substantial Gothic document that still exists and the only lengthy text known to have been composed originally in the Gothic language is the Skeranes, a few pages of commentary on the Gospel of John. Very few secondary sources make reference to the Gothic language after about 800. Inter Incrementus Ecclesiae Christiani, Walafried Strabo, a Frankish monk who lived in Swabia, speaks of a group of monks who reported that, even now certain peoples in Scythia, especially around Tomish, spoke a Serma Theatiscus, the language of the Gothic translation of the Bible, and they used such a liturgy. In evaluating medieval texts that mention the Goths, many writers used the word Goths to mean any Germanic people in Eastern Europe, many of whom certainly did not use the Gothic language as known from the Gothic Bible. Some writers even referred to Slavic-speaking people as Goths. However, it is clear from Ulfilas, a translation, that despite some puzzles, the language belongs with the Germanic language group, not with Slavonic. The relationship between the language of the Crimean Goths and Ulfilas' Gothic is less clear. The few fragments of Crimean Gothic from the 16th century show significant differences from the language of the Gothic Bible, although some of the glosses, such as Ada for egg, could indicate a common heritage, and Gothic Mena, compared to Crimean Gothic Mine, can suggest an East Germanic connection. Generally, the Gothic language refers to the language of Ulfilas, but the attestations themselves are largely from the 6th century, long after Ulfilas had died. The above list is not exhaustive, and a more extensive list is available on the website of the project. Alphabet and Transliteration. Ulfilas' Gothic, as well as that of the Skeranes and various other manuscripts, was written using an alphabet that was most likely invented by Ulfilas himself for his translation. Some scholars claim that it was derived from the Greek alphabet only, while others maintain that there are some Gothic letters of runic or Latin origin. This Gothic alphabet has nothing to do either with black letter, which was used to write the Latin script from the 12th to 14th centuries and evolved into the fractal writing later used to write German, or with the sans serif type fonts sometimes called Gothic. A standardized system is used for transliterating Gothic words into the Latin script. The system mirrors the conventions of the native alphabet, such as writing long I as a. There are two variant speaking systems. Raw, one that directly transliterates the original Gothic script, and a normalized one that adds diacritics to certain vowels to clarify the pronunciation or, in certain cases, to indicate the Proto-Germanic origin of the vowel in question. The latter system is usually used in the academic literature. The following table shows the correspondence between speaking and sound for vowels. Notes. This normalized transliteration system devised by Jacob Grimm is used in some modern editions of Gothic texts and in studies of Common Germanic. It signals distinctions not made by Ulfilas in his alphabet. Rather, they reflect various origins in Proto-Germanic. Thus, I is used for the sound derived from the Proto-Germanic short vowels e and I before h and r. I is used for the sound derived from the Proto-Germanic diphthong I. Some scholars have considered this sound to have remained as a diphthong in Gothic. However, Ulfilas was highly consistent in other speaking inventions, which makes it unlikely that he assigned two different sounds to the same digraph. Furthermore, he consistently used the digraph to represent Greek alpha iota, which was then certainly a monophthong. A monophthongal value is accepted by Eduard Proksch in his influential A Common Germanic Grammar. It had earlier been accepted by Joseph Wright, but only in an appendix to his Grammar of the Gothic language. I is used for the sound derived from the Common Germanic long vowel e before a vowel. O is used for the sound derived from Common Germanic diphthong o. It cannot be related to a Greek digraph, since alpha upsilon then represented a sequence of vowel plus spiral consonant, which Ulfilas transcribed as in representing Greek words. Nevertheless, the argument based on simplicity is accepted by some influential scholars. The normal environment of occurrence refers to native words. In foreign words, these environments are often greatly disturbed. For example, the short sounds and I alternate in native words in a nearly allophonic way, with occurring in native words only before the consonants h, r, while I occurs everywhere else. In foreign borrowings, however, and I occur freely in all environments, reflecting the corresponding vowel quality in the source language. Paradigmatic alterations can occur either intra-paradigm or cross-paradigm. Examples of intra-paradigm alternation are GAUI/A.Y district versus GAUJIS/.JIS district, MAWI/MA.Y maiden versus MAUHOS/M.JOS maiden, THEWI/THETA-I.Y maiden versus TIAHOS/THETA-U.JOS maiden, TAWI, T.I. deed versus TOLYIS/TODOTJIS deed, NAUs, NS, corpse versus NAVIS/NA.YS, corpses, TRIU, tree versus TREEWISE/TRI.WIS, tree, TAOJAN/T.YAN, to do versus Tawida, tar.y.tar/I, he did, stogen/sto.yan, to judge, versus storida/st.i.tar, I, he judged. Examples of cross-paradigm alternation are class 4 verbs keman, kman, to come, versus beran, beran, to carry, cumans, humans, come, versus Bowerans, berants, carried, class VIIB verbs letin/la.tan, to let, versus sayin/s.am, to sow. A combination of intra and cross-paradigm alternation occurs in class 5 sniwan/sni.1, to hasten, versus snad, sn, he hastened. The carefully maintained alternations between U and IW suggest that U may have been something other than U. Various possibilities have been suggested under these theories. The speaking of U is derived from the fact that the sound alternates with IW before a vowel, based on the similar alternations O and OR. The most common theory, however, simply posits U as the pronunciation of U. Macrons represent longer and U. Macrons are often also used in the case of E and O, however, they are sometimes omitted since these vowels are always long. Longer occurs only before the consonants h, and represents Proto-Germanic nasalized less than earlier than. Still non-nasal did not occur in Proto-Germanic. It is possible that the Gothic vowels still preserved the nasalization. Non-nasal I and U occurred in Proto-Germanic, however, and so long A and U occur in all contexts. Before H and H, long A and U could stem from either non-nasal or nasal long vowels in Proto-Germanic. It is possible that the nasalization was still preserved in Gothc but not written. The following table shows the correspondence between speaking and sound for consonants. H, which is written with a single character in the native alphabet, is transliterated using the symbol, which is used only in transliterating Gothic. K is similarly written with a single character in the native alphabet and is transliterated Q. However, is written with two letters in the native alphabet and hence GW. The lack of a single letter to represent this sound may result from its restricted distribution and its rarity. Theta is written th, similarly to other Germanic languages. Although n is the allophone of n, occurring before, and k, it is written g, following the native alphabet convention, which leads to occasional ambiguities, e.g., sags, san s, song, but trigs, tri s, faithful.